Yo, welcome back everybody to a brand new video here on the second channel. Today we're going to look at all the decks that got day 2 at the Perth Regionals, kind of talk about the top 8, just kind of analyze the results from this tournament. Of course, Perth was this weekend. It's a lot smaller of a regional, though. As you can see, there's only 300 players in the tournament. In fact, day 2 was only 55 players long. So not a big tournament overall, but still the results will have an impact, I'm sure, as to what does good in Toronto this weekend. We're in this like wide open meta with all these different decks you could theoretically play right now. So these results definitely could have an impact as to what could be popular in Toronto this weekend. I'm going to be in attendance at Toronto, so I do want to analyze the results here and talk about the meta going forward. I'm going to have more Toronto content here on the channel, like a tier list and stuff, coming out later this week, so stay tuned for that. And if you're new here to the second channel, make sure to subscribe down below. We're on the road to 19,000 subs, and I'll leave a link to the limits down below if you want to go check out any decks for yourself. We got a bit of content coming up on the channel this week, so I'm definitely excited for that. So we'll look at the top 8 here at Perth Regionals. The interesting story was that a lot of players from Japan came to this tournament and dominated. In fact, more than half the top 4 was people from Japan. And of course, we did have another Japan player in top 8. So half the top 8 being from Japan is kind of crazy. And of course, we did see Kaito Arai win the tournament with Gardevoir here. Here is his Gardy list. Kaito is somebody who has done very well at a lot of ICs before. Very good player from Japan. Was able to win the regional with Gardevoir. Gardevoir was a decent meta call. There was a lot of cloth at this regional. That's kind of the big thing with Gardy right now is Gardevoir seems like it does have the kind of underdog status. It's no longer as good as it was in the past format. I think there's too much Drago, Miraidon making a resurgence. Lost Box being popular again is not good for the deck. But the deck does have some sneaky tricks. The first trick it has is abusing Klefki. I think Klefki is a very good card right now in our format. Since so many decks rely heavily on these basic abilities to set up, a lot of the time a random Klefki can decide the fate of a match. And of course, you do have the ability to have the slowdown with Fluttermane, the snipers with Screamtail, Monkey Dory spread, and Kaito actually went back to the old version of Gardy, the more slower-paced approach with the Unfair Stamp. Does play the Tatsugiri in the deck. I think Kaito played Tatsugiri at NEIC too, so he's kind of just playing like his old NEIC list. The only thing really not on the deck from the old list is just no TM Devo. But yeah, Gardy looks interesting. I have seen a lot of Gardevoir actually on Twitter this past weekend at League Cups doing well. I don't know if that's going to mean Gardevoir will be popular in Toronto. I don't think Gardevoir is that great for Toronto, and I'll talk more about that in a tier list video very soon. It did win Perth, though, so if you are somebody who likes to play Gardevoir, definitely give Kaito's list a try. It was able to take down Cloth in the finals. I think that's kind of the big thing here is that Cloth does struggle against Gardevoir. Not only do they have Klefki, but they can easily trade into you as long as you don't Peck Grunt Donk them. So it's like super easy for Gardevoir to just kind of beat Cloth usually by slowing them down with a random Klefki. Klefki puts in work against Cloth, because I feel like you want to go first against Cloth, and then you just go turn on Klefki. They can't play the game, and then you just kind of run them over really easily with their attackers. But yeah, I think Cloth is still like decent. Its surprise factor has dwindled a little bit. It still did good at Perth. There's a couple in top 8. But I think its surprise factor does hurt its performance. I think Cloth is going to be a little bit more respected going into Toronto, but wouldn't be surprised if Cloth is still popular in Toronto. We do see an Iron Thorns list making top 4 here. Quad Thorns to be exact. We do have another Iron Thorns deck in top 8, but yeah, Quad Thorns, kind of same story as like why Klefki's so good right now. Is because like Klefki is really good against these setup decks. Same thing with Iron Thorns. You're just kind of slowing down the speed of the meta. The meta is like really fast right now, so these decks that can take advantage of these slower cards are just naturally going to be stronger. It's just kind of how it is right now with Iron Thorns and Klefki in the format. And yeah, the top 4 list does play a couple Eries in the deck and Pennies, so trying to be a little bit more disruptive. Has Devo in there, Prime Catcher, see A-Spec over Legacy or anything like that. Yeah, pretty simple Thorns list. Just the double Eerie probably causes more of a headache for a lot of decks that just can't get over the onslaught of Thorns. Then we had another Cloth in top 8 here. This one does have a little bit more spice going on. For starters, there's a lot more Pokemon in the deck that we haven't seen yet. We got the Regidrago, which was from Stuttgart. There's also a Fluttermane and a Zoroark V. The idea of the Zoroark V is that you can, for no energy, hit and run for 30 damage. With a Binding Mochion, you can do even more damage, and then you go into Fluttermane. So you're kind of playing like a mini hit-and-run deck. You can hit-and-run into Klefki Fluttermane, or you can hit-and-run into Peck Grunt. That's kind of the idea behind the Zoroark V being in the deck. It's really an interesting addition. That's one thing I will say about Cloth. I think that the deck is not as strong as it was for Stuttgart. I think the deck's power level is still very strong. I just think its surprise factor has diminished, which I think overall hurts its potential. But I will say this. There's a lot of different ways people are kind of innovating with their Cloth decks. I think that's a big deal. So somebody who's wanting to play Cloth for Toronto, you can consider looking into different options of how you can build your Cloth deck. Because this Zoroark Fluttermane idea is really, really cool. So very fascinating concept there. Then we, of course, had a Thorns Polt, cannot talk, in the top 8 here. This one, pretty similar to what we saw at Stuttgart, does play the Toadscruel. Toadscruel is broken in the deck. I think it's kind of a staple if you're going to play this deck at this point. Is it the same 60 as Madge Jensen? It is the exact same 60. Again, just kind of the same thing with Quad Thorns, just Iron Thorns, Clef Key, whatever. Just really good right now. Decks rely too much on abilities to set up. Slowing down the pace of the game to stop these super fast decks is really good. The deck just does good. I think its popularity has also been increasing quite a bit. Not only did it get back-to-back top 8s, but its play rate has gone up too. I've seen it doing well in online tournaments. A lot of players are posting on Twitter that they've been winning cups and challenges this weekend with it. So I think this deck actually might have to be something you have to look out for at Toronto this weekend. I'm not going to say it's going to be very popular. It might increase Dragapult's play rate a little bit because I think also normal Dragapult is pretty decent right now. We might see a little bit of a Dragapult, a bit of a rise in Dragapult's popularity for Toronto, just because you have the normal Dragapult, Dustmore, like Pidgeot builds, and you have this Thorns build. But we'll have to see how popular it is. It has been increasing in popularity, though. And, of course, we had a couple of Dragos in top 8 here. One of these Dragos playing Haxorus does have the Gudra, the Exeggutor also in the deck. Does play a Temple of Sinnoh, and then we had another Drago here with the Jamming Tower. More simplistic build, just having the extra Gudra in the deck and the double Dragapult. No Exeggutor, Haxorus, or anything like that in here. And we had another Guardian top 8. This one also playing the slowdown approach with the Clef Key, the Flutter Mane. Does have the Unfair Stamp in the deck over the Secret Box. Not as turbo as the other builds have been. But yeah, 2 Guardian top 8's interesting. I think it's pretty good in this format. Gardevoir is pretty favored. I think with Flutter Mane and Clef Key, you are favored against Thorns decks. And then obviously Cloth is a good matchup too. Drago is probably a little sketchy though, right? Drago at the end of the day is going to be a tough matchup, but Gardevoir is still finding top 8 success after all. And then we had Natalie Miller, who I'm pretty sure was in the Asymmetrical Cut. Whoops, that's not her deck. Keep clicking on the wrong deck. There we go. She played Drago with the Noctowl and does have the Gudra in the deck. But the Noctowl is still kind of the thing in the deck. Does have a Temple of Sinnoh 2 in there. No Jamming Tower, Pokestop. Or actually, no, sorry, there's a Jamming Tower. There is no Pokestop, so Temple of Sinnoh, Jamming Tower. And then, of course, you got the Noctowl. Noctowl's still pretty strong, right? The Noctowl, grabbing the 2 items is very good. You can get E-Switch as Prime Catcher. Just a lot of combo pieces can be grabbed with Noctowl. And then we did have another Drago at 10th place. I figured Drago was going to do well this weekend. I mean, I figured Drago was going to be popular at Perth. And we do have another list here at 10th place. Playing an Iron Bundle in the deck, which is interesting. Might help a little bit in the mirror match. Playing the Jamming Tower, no Temple, no Stop. Has the Exeggutor, the Tina, and the Gudra in the deck, too. And then, of course, Rahul was able to get top 16 with Lugia. Rahul basically running back a similar Worlds list he used, except he's not playing the... Something's missing. But he's got a Wellspring in the deck, which is not what Rahul was playing before. But yeah, got the Wellspring in there. I don't think Rahul's made a video on the deck yet, but congrats to Rahul for the top 16 with Lugia. I think Lugia's in an interesting spot right now. It seems to be pretty good, but there is a lot of yellow in the format. We got Miraidon still kind of probably going to be popular in Toronto. Thorns decks, this Thorns Dragapult deck, kind of bad for the Lugia deck, right? So I'm interested to see how Lugia can do going into Toronto. It seems like it's definitely not a bad play. Kind of under the radar right now. I feel like, there's a good chance a lot of the Dragos won't even be playing Temple of Sinnoh. I don't even know if it's worth respecting Lugia going into Toronto. Is it going to be popular? I'm not sure. There's a lot of lightning going around, which is, I think, the one thing that's going to hurt Lugia's success rate is you're going to probably, have to worry about these Thorns and these Miraidon decks being popular right now. But Rahul, just sticking to his guns with the Raikou, got the Wellspring in there. Fez bundle, pretty simple stuff from what he's played before. There was a Charizard in top 16. Charizard just, your straightforward Zard deck, just powerful, consistent, and strong. Then we got Daichi, who got top 16, also with Iron Thorns, except he's not playing the Eries, also playing Unfair Stamp in the deck as his ace spec for a little bit of extra disruption. And then you got the triple Penny, so just trying to be as annoying as possible with his list here. And then we got another Charizard in top 16. Once again, just pretty strong Zard 60. I think at this point we kind of know a good 59, 60 cards for Zard if you're sticking to the Unfair Stamp. There was a Turbo Guardian top 16. Gardevoir did do pretty good this weekend. Again, not surprised to see that. Clef Key is just really strong right now, and then also Gardevoir can also take advantage of the meta of Cloth and stuff and Iron Thorns. As long as you do have Clef Key / Flutter Mane, you can try to handle the matchup. But Gardevoir, looking pretty good. Is it going to be well positioned for Toronto though? I'd be scared of Miraidon, I'd be scared of Drago, and I'd be scared of Zard, which are 3 decks that I fully expect to be at least in the top 5 meta in Toronto. But Gardevoir could be good, right? And we got a Lax in top 16. Does have the Rotom, double Cornerstone, playing the Hero's Cape, just normal Lax stuff. And then we got a couple more Dragos here in top 32. One with Noctowl, got another Drago here, played by Brent Tonneson, who looks like similar, list what he's always been playing with the Noctowl and stuff. Another Zard, got the unfair stamp, got the clone in there, the usual stuff. Yeah. It's what we've been seeing the past couple tournaments. Nothing to write home about. And there's another Thornspult here doing good. This one not playing the Toadscruel, though, so that's a bit interesting. Plays a penny in the deck over Turo. Does play 2 Lost Cities. Yeah, interesting. Plays a heavier line of Dragapult, playing 3 pull, because a lot of lists were playing just the 2, so that's interesting. Again, this deck looks pretty good. It's starting to do really good, right? It's starting to get these good top 8 placements. It's starting to get good top 32 placements. This deck actually might be pretty real. And then, of course, we got another Zard here. Got the Stamp, no Cologne. Another Snorlax below it. It's got the one Rotom in there. Got the Hero's Cape. That's the A-Spec. Another Zard here. Playing the promo Charmander. Does also have the unfair stamp. No Clone or anything in there. We got another Guardy here. It's another Turbo Guardy list. Playing the Klefki and the Fluttermane. So a little bit of extra disruption there with those two. And then we got another Regidrago, of course, with the Egg, Guja, stuff like that. We got Ancient Box doing good. I don't think Ancient Box is in a bad spot right now. I mean, it seems good into most of the big decks. Like, it seems okay into Gardevoir. Not bad into Cloth. I would imagine your Thorns matchup is, like, pretty decent, too, overall. Like, your Thorns pull matchup probably isn't that bad. This build is playing the Roaring Moonix, also playing Peck, Fez, and Dippity, and a Brubana in the deck to get some extra poison damage in alongside a single copy of Binding Mochi. So that's definitely an interesting Ancient Box list. But kind of Ancient Box is another one of those, like, under the radar, like, not a bad play. Kind of like Lugia right now. It's like, no one's really thinking about it, but I think it's decent still. Then we got another Zard. Once again, just normal Zard 60 there. And we got another Lugia in day 2. This one's a little bit more teched out. We actually see a Kyurem in the deck, which is kind of funny. I don't hate the idea. The problem is, though, like, usually if I'm playing Lost Box up against Lugia, I am maybe considering that I am going to be respecting the big threat of Wellspring Ogerpon. I guess one thing to note, I just took this in. Lugia build plays no Iron Hands. There is a Raikou in the deck, but no Iron Hands. I guess, like, the big thing is there's a Klefki and a Radiant Charizard. I've thought about Radiant Charizard in Lugia too. With Luminous Energy, it doesn't seem that bad, so, you know, maybe Radzar could be a good addition to the deck. The Klefki is interesting. Is it better than Fluttermane, though, is, like, the main question. Klefki is cool, but it slows down your own setup because it prevents you from using Luminion, and potentially, you know, Squawkabilly if you run it. But this list is not playing Squawkabilly. It is playing Thornton, Countercatcher. Very interesting tech out list. Only 1 copy of Fish, too, is interesting. That's a very interesting Lugia 60. We got Tim here running it back with the Drago Terapagos deck he's been playing. The Drago allows you to make some cool checkmate plays at the end of the game with Legacy Star to get your resources back. Terapagos is also a deck that its play rate has dropped down quite a bit, but it still doesn't seem that bad. Kind of like Lugia and like Ancient Box. Like, it's not a terrible deck. Another Cloth Terapagos here. Just play the Regidrago in the deck for the draw. We got another Regidrago VSTAR here. It's got the Noctowl in there, the Guja. We got another Zard here. This one's a little bit more teched out. All right, we got a lot more going on. It's kind of got a little bit of a control package in the deck. It is playing a Mawile for the Retreat Lock. I don't think that's a terrible idea right now. Some decks quite literally don't even play any switching cards and have no way to deal with Mawile. And the interesting one is the Dedenne. Now, this card is literally just Regieleki, but Buddy Poffinable. Is it better than Regieleki then because you can get it with Buddy Poffin? I'm not sold on that because Regieleki having 130 HP can be relevant in some situations, but Dedenne is searchable with Poffin, so it's cool. It's literally just Regieleki but Poffinable. It's an interesting kind of Zard 60 here. It's playing Penny in the deck, just have Roxanne, Maximum Belt as the spec, a Choice Belt in the deck, Terra Orb, Roxanne, Iono, a lot of interesting stuff playing Jet Energy, 6 Fire, and NTV in the deck. So a little bit more of a different Zard list here. I do like the idea of a bit more of a control package in the deck. And obviously, you know, against Snorlax, you do have that Dedenne Penny loop, which can be pretty good. Then we got a Lost Box in day 2. The Pikachu Lost Box deck does play hands. Got the Raikou in the deck, actually, too. It's got the Silene in the deck over the Roxanne. Yeah, I mean, Lost Box, I don't know if I'd play to Perth because I knew Drago was probably going to be very popular. But, you know, it's still got day 2. It's still Lost Box at the end of the day. It's still, like, a pretty strong deck if you're not hitting Drago. Another Lugia here. This one just playing the heavy Countess Cinchino 3-3 line. Playing Squawk, got hands. Yeah, pretty clean 60 there for Lugia. And then we got a Raging Bolt here in top. 64 here. Does play a Terra Orb, which is interesting to help find Ogerpon. I don't hate that, actually. An extra out to Ogerpon's not bad. Does have the catchers. Plays a Canceling Clone. Plays Quad Bravery Charm. Got Iono in there, too. Another Regidrago here. The Guja, and then we got a Gouging Fire in day 2 with the Roaring Moon in the deck. So a little bit of extra attackers in here with Moon, Delphox, NTV. Plays Monkey Dory's, got the Fluttermane still, Secret Box, also as the A-Spec in the deck. Yeah, Gouging Fire is not bad, you know, decent little underrated deck there. Another Zard, playing Cologne, got Unfair Stamp in there. Then we got a Goldengo in day 2. I think Goldengo is sadly not falling off, but I feel like it's kind of being a little bit more respected now, right? There's a little bit too much Thorns in the format. Potentially, that's not great for the deck. Goldengo's still decent, though, for sure. It does struggle into Stall and Thorns decks, which is kind of the problem with playing the deck. But it's definitely not bad. Actually, the highest placing Goldengo list is not on the Togekiss, playing a Dusknoir in the deck instead to try to take advantage of Curse Blast, which I don't hate either. Dusknoir's not a bad idea. Is it better than Togekiss? They kind of do similar things where you're taking extra prizes. Not too sure, but it's not a bad idea, for sure. And then we got another Drago, of course. Got a Noivern in there. I think Noivern's not bad right now. Noivern's actually decent into Cloth, right? Because Cloth can't really do anything against Noivern. And then we got more Zards here. This one's playing Magma Basin in the deck. Interesting. Then we got another Zard. Let's see. Yeah, another Zard, Cologne, Stamp, stuff like that. And then we got another Zard with the Unfair Stamp and stuff. The normal Zard stuff. There was a Palkia Trapagos in day 2. Just another, like, fairly strong and consistent deck right now. Just kind of like Lugia, Gouging Fire, Trapagos, like, those kind of, like, that type of deck. Just pretty solid deck. Doesn't really do anything wrong. It's just a nice beat stick deck. Yeah, cool. A couple more Snorlaxes here. It's one got a Regidrago in the deck. A couple Mist Energies there. And then we got another Snorlax with the Ogre Pawn. 4 Misfortune Sisters. Crazy. Was he a spec? Precious Trolley. I saw that. I'm like, oh, wait. It's an interesting spec. Also playing the box order. So I guess this list can kind of lean into the Rotom-less build or the Rotom in the deck. So that's interesting. Kind of a best of both worlds type of scenario. Another Cloth Trapagos here. Also playing the Zork and the Fluttermane like we saw earlier, which is kind of cute. So really cool innovations there. Then we got another Drago. Got Haxorus, Gudra, in there. And then another Charizard here. Got the Unfair Stamp and the Cologne. Another Drago. Does play the Gudra and the Noivern and the Dragapult and the Tina and the Noctowl in the deck. So a lot more going on there. And then we got a Miraidon day 2. Interesting to see Miraidon not having as much success after Toronto. Like, I still think this deck is really, really strong right now. I know Cloth's popularity is probably hindering its performance, but I think that Miraidon's probably a little bit more well-positioned for Toronto than it was for Perth and Stuttgart. So we'll have to see on that one. I think Miraidon will be popular in Toronto. In fact, Miraidon did win last year's Toronto. I'm sure a lot of the Miraidon players who went to Toronto are still going to run it back this year. Like, the deck is still pretty solid. I'll talk more about that in a tier list video. There was at least one Goldengo Togekiss deck in day 2. Interesting playing a 1 Togepi, 2 Togekiss line. Makes sense, though, because you do have the Heavy Ball, which can help get the Togepi out of the deck. So technically, you can at least always get a Togepi, just not prize the 1 Togekiss instead of playing a 2-1 line, right? It makes any sense. And we got another Zard here. It's got the Unfair Stamp, the Huge. Got another Drago. And yeah, got Cypher Whoa, this one's a little bit more spicy. Hold up, we got Cypher Maniac, which is actually an interesting concept. You can Teal Dance into that. Plays Crispin 2 to help build up Drago. And plays a Power Glass, which can be really cool with Kyurem. Very interesting Drago 60. Some interesting tech cards in there for sure. And then finally, to wrap things up, we got another Snorlax in day 2. And this one was not playing the Rotom in the deck, just play the Precious Trolley in the deck. So yeah, no Rotom. And that was the day 2 at Perth. Again, nothing too crazy. There wasn't anything like insane. There was a couple interesting decks, like the Zard deck was kind of cool there with the control stuff, but nothing too crazy. Again, smaller regional. The play levels were probably a lot more higher. Like the more you just had a more higher quantity of good players since day 2 was smaller, right? You had a lot of players from Japan, a lot of the Australians, Rahul, stuff like that. So probably a bit harder to make it to day 2, like a crazier list, if that makes any sense. But also a smaller tournament overall. But yeah, the Perth Regionals results are definitely interesting. I think the big takeaway, Gardevoir looks like it's going to maybe be back. And then also, Cloth continuing its reign right now. Regidrago still being good. I think this Thorns, Dragapult, they're just like Thorns in general is looking like it's going to be a lot more popular also going forward. So we'll have to see how this impacts the Toronto Regional Championships. I don't think the Bottega special event results are live on the list. No, they're not. I just refreshed. So I don't know what the special event results looked like. I think there was like Drago and top 4 and stuff. Can't remember everything, but it's not live on Limitless. So maybe we'll look at that maybe some other time in a future video. But I will be doing more content here talking about Toronto Regionals in the coming week here on the channel in preparation for Toronto this weekend, which I'm excited for. And yeah, these results were definitely kind of cool. And just kind of more of the same. I think we're just seeing the natural evolution of the meta. We're just seeing these more ability lock Pokemon become more popular and dominant as these like fast turbo-based decks need some kind of counter. Thorns and Klefki decks are helping to counter them, which I think was kind of the big evolution here in Perth. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, leave a like. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below. Once again, we're on the road to 19K subs. I'll leave a link to Limitless here, the site I used for this video, if you want to go copy these decks for yourself. And I'll catch you all very soon here. Bye-bye.